message of terror. Hulagu Khan's envoys arrived in Cairo.
They carried an ultimatum of annihilation.
Empires rise and fall if, and with them, monuments once thought eternal crumble into memory.
Most rulers had surrendered to this psychological terror.
But Sultan Qutuz was not most rulers. He gave his reply, not in words, but in steel. The envoys were executed, their heads mounted on the gates.
In the year 1260, Cairo's citizens gathered under the shadow of the Great Gate, forced to confront the brutal reality of their new rulers.
This was the point of no return.
This was not just policy.
For the Sultan, this was personal vengeance.
He was Sayf al-Din Qutuz, the vicious dog.
Taken as a child, his story would one day shape the fate of empires.
He was Mahmud ibn Mamdud, a Khwarezmian prince.
His homeland was the first to be erased by the horde.
Sold into slavery, he rose through the Mamluk ranks.
He seized the throne of Egypt for one purpose:
To lead a generation's quest to settle a blood debt. His destiny was to face the monsters of his past. The monster was already at the gates. The Mongol Empire was a world-ending force. An ideologically driven machine for global conquest. Hulagu's campaign had already burned the world.
He crushed the fortress of the assassins at Alamut. Then, in 1258, he stood before Baghdad.
Here, scholars illuminated the darkness, preserving the past while charting the future of human understanding.
The city was obliterated. The Caliph was executed. The House of Wisdom's contents were thrown into the Tigris.
It was the end of the Islamic Golden Age.
This sacrilege enraged Hulagu's own cousin, Berke Khan. A devout Muslim, his fury planted the seed of civil war. From the ashes of Baghdad, Hulagu turned west.
Aleppo and Damascus fell in rapid succession.
The Mongol tide had reached the doorstep of Egypt, the last Muslim power in its path.
To fight a steppe warrior. You must become a better steppe warrior.
This was the core principle of the Mamluk Sultanate. The state was not a kingdom, it was an armor.
Its rulers were a one-generation nobility of slaves.
From the steppes to distant shores, their journey began in uncertainty, yet one among them would one day change the course of history. For millennia, this windswept land forged the character of those who called it home. In the Cairo citadel, their pasts were erased. Their loyalty was forged only to their master and their brothers in arms.
They endured Furusiyya, a brutal and sophisticated training.
They were a hybrid force, the perfect counter to the Mongols.
They had the steppe nomads' innate skill with horse and bow.
But this was refined by the resources of a wealthy state. They wore heavier mail and lamella armor.
They rode larger, grain-fed Arabian war horses. They could fight like the Mongols, but with the discipline and heavy equipment of a professional army. Their arsenal was diverse. The powerful Mamluk composite bow, lances for the shock charge, and curved sabers for the melee.
They may have even deployed an early psychological weapon.
Near contemporary sources describe midfa, or hand cannons. Not to kill, but to create thunderous noise.
A sound designed to terrify the Mongols' unaccustomed horses.
The Mamluks were ready.
But they were preparing to fight Hulagu's grand army. An unstoppable force that had crushed kingdoms.
Then, thousands of miles away, history turned.
For centuries, this fortress guarded the empire. Its stone walls now echo.
The great Khan Möngke was dead. Hulagu, as a prince, was forced to return for the election.
He left behind a mere garrison to finish the conquest.
This was the critical, unexpected window of opportunity.
Qutuz would not face the main Mongol horde.
He would face its elite, but smaller, occupational force.
A force led by the brilliant general, Kitbuqa Noyan.
Qutuz, seize the moment.
He marched his army north from Cairo.
But one obstacle remained: the Crusader kingdom of Acre.
A hostile Frankish army at his back would be fatal.
Qutuz, the warrior, proved to be a master diplomat.
He proposed a truce, appealing to the Franks' own terror.
The Crusaders agreed to a pact of passive neutrality, letting the Mamluks pass unmolested.
They even allowed them to resupply near Acre. The board was now set for the final confrontation.
The battlefield was chosen. Ain Jalut, the spring of Goliath. The Mamluk general, Baybars, knew this terrain intimately. He saw the valley as the perfect killing ground.
The Mongols rode hard across the Levant, unaware that this inviting plain was merely the bait in a masterful trap. The dense woods of Kitbuqa offered perfect cover. The trap was set.
Baybars led the Mamluk vanguard onto the plain. For hours, he harassed Kitbuqa's forces. Hit-and-run attacks, designed to provoke. Then, he gave the signal.
Baybars executed a perfect feigned retreat. It was the Mongols' own signature tactic, turned against them.
The overconfident Kitbuqa took the bait. Charge! He ordered his entire army to charge into the highlands.
At that moment, the main Mamluk army emerged from three sides, and the trap was sprung. But the Mongols were elite.
They fought with terrifying ferocity. The Mamluk left flank began to buckle.
As the crimson banner of the Mamluks struck the dust, the fate of the Levant hung precariously in the balance.
Sultan Qutuz, watching from a hill, threw off his helmet. Islam!
He personally led his reserves in a desperate final charge.
The sight of their Sultan electrified the Mamluk line.
They rallied, and the Mongol army finally broke.
The myth was broken.
For 40 years, the Mongols were an invincible force of nature. The Mongol tide was halted permanently.
The battle saved Egypt and redrew the map.
The Mamluk Sultanate was now the undisputed champion of Islam.
Cairo became the new center of prestige and power.
Against the cold, dramatic sunset, the lone knight faced an unforgiving truth. The Crusaders, whose truce had enabled the Mamluk victory.
now found themselves surrounded by a single, unified Mamluk Empire.
Their fate was sealed.
But the architect of the victory would not live to see it.
On the journey home, Sultan Qutuz was assassinated. The killer was the battle's hero, Baybars.
The legacy of Ain Jalut was secured not by the man who won it, but by the man who murdered him.
The victory was a perfect storm.
It was a convergence of 5 critical, interlocking factors.
The Mamluk system forged the finest heavy cavalry of the age. This warrior, equipped with the finest armor,
A military state that forged hybrid, professional soldiers.
it was a cry that echoed across the battlefield, a desperate plea for the unity of Islam.
A leader driven by a lifetime of personal vengeance.
Here, at Ain Jalut, the Mamluks sprung their trap. The jaws closed on the Mongol horde.
A perfect trap that inverted the enemy's own tactics.
A game of chance, frozen in the crucible of history. Here, luck is not merely random,
A geopolitical crisis that pulled the main enemy army away.
And finally, the fracture. The enemy's own self-destruction.
The Berke Hulagu War, triggered by the battle, was the checkmate that made the victory permanent.
The Mamluks didn't have to beat the Mongol Empire.
They only had to beat its army once.
The Mongols did the rest.